Okay, Marigots, I believe you're live.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Perth East Budget Meeting this 24th day of February. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their heads for a moment of reflection. Thank you. I need a motion to confirm the agenda and the following items be added to the meeting agenda. Number 7.3.1.10, Council Chambers Capital, and number 7.3.9.1, Community Beautification Funding and Cairn Restorations. That the following items be, that the agenda as circulated and prepared for the meeting Township of Perth East be approved as amended. A mover and a seconder for that, moved by Jeremy. Second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Okay, if you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as we move into the meeting. Before we get too far into the meeting, we have a couple of new faces on the screen with us tonight. One is our IT tech administrator, and that's Matt McGrath. And for those who haven't met him, welcome, Matt. Glad to see you. Thanks for coming. I think we've met Peter and everyone else, correct? At the last meeting, so good. Okay. So then the next item on the agenda is our consent agenda item, and that's our draft minutes of our last meeting. Is there any questions on that at all? Seeing no questions, I do have a motion. 5.1.1 draft minutes of the Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting January 18, 2022. That item 5.1.1 is set out on the consent agenda for February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be approved. Moved by Jerry. Second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we do not have any delegations. Our first item under staff reports is reserve and reserve funds, and Rhonda, the first.
Good evening, everyone. So your first report tonight is on the reserves and the reserve funds. And this is an annual report that you see at this capital budget meeting. It outlines the basic need for reserves. And just to highlight them at a high level, number one is to sustain infrastructure and asset needs and to support our operating and capital plans and just support for contingencies and unplanned events. And just to refresh Council's memory as well, Council approved a plan to relieve our annual infrastructure deficit, and that was with our asset management plan that was prepared by Hempson. We do an annual transfer to have our asset management plan fully funded by 2058. The schedules attached, you have schedules there that show the projected year-end reserve balance. There are entries yet to be done. There's interest entry to be done and the development charges entry to be done. And then we have in front of you, based on the draft budget that you see tonight, you have a projected budget or reserve balance for the end of 2022. I don't think I have any more comments on that report unless there's any questions.
Okay, Hugh, question?
Rhonda, there's a southeast stope gravel pit, a northeast stope gravel pit, and a gravel pit holding, and then there's a gravel pit rehabilitation. I understand what the rehabilitation one is for, but could you tell me what the other three are for?
Yes, I can. The gravel pit holding account is more of an inventory control account. So we do an inventory at the end of the year for the gravel pit, and we adjust the value of the stockpile that we have on hand to the inventory. So it's not actually a cash reserve. It is more of an inventory reserve. And with regards to the southeast hope and the northeast hope reserves from the gravel pit, that was those two reserves were established during amalgamation, and that was when a share of the gravel pit revenue or surplus went to different reserves, and those two benefited for projects to be done in those two wards. There's no longer a transfer from gravel pit surplus to those two reserves, but there is a balance sitting there that may be used as council sees fit. Does that, and hopefully that answers your question.
Yep, no, thanks, Rhonda. Appreciate.
Okay, any other, buddy, Daryl?
Yeah, excuse me. When we talk about by the year 2050, our asset management would be solely funded. Can you just elaborate on that a little more, Teresa? What, or sorry, Rhonda?
Sure. So based on the current inventory that we have now for assets, and then indexing it up to 2058, by increasing our annual transfers to reserves and indexing those, we would be able to cover the full cost of replacing an asset on the date that it expires in our inventory plan, the end of its useful life cycle. That being said, your asset management plan is not, it's a point in time document. You're putting in, you're taking out, your different things happen. So it's a plan to try and fully fund your assets that you have today. It's a projection, but it's not perfect by any means. Things change, and you can see further in the report too that we have the building condition assessment done by a consultant, and so that componentized all of our buildings, so we have better data. Better data sometimes also gives you more cost, because to replace the arena component by component, the end total is more than its one shell and estimated X number of dollars. You have different life cycles for different parts, if that makes sense. So it's just a point in time calculation.
Oh, exactly. That's what I was expecting for an answer. You did a very good job there. Essentially, it's a living document, and yeah, it's there's always struggling. We as council always have to keep that in mind. The funding from higher above, we don't know what kind of money we will be getting, and you can be on the hook for everything that feels good and looks good, but it can play you one day. So thank you.
Okay, anyone else with questions? We have no more questions, and we have a motion that the Budget Advisory Committee receive the report prepared by the Treasurer dated February 24, 2022, entitled Reserve and Reserve Funds for Information. Moved by Andrew, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next one is the unfunded capital and township long-term debt. Rhonda?
Okay, this report, it outlines our internal debt, which is what unfunded capital is. And this debt, it's supported by our corporate reserves, and it's paid by future transfers to reserves or savings. As you can see, our unfunded capital has gone down each year for the last few years. So now we're lower than 194,172 from last year. So that is a good thing. We're reducing our internal debt. And if you look on page 18, there's a table there on the long-term debt, and you can see what the township owes there as well. And it is going down each year. We haven't added to that debt, and included in that debt is the third-party debt as well, which is your tile drain loans and your municipal drains. And then the longer term debt we have there is for Ontario infrastructure, and that's for the Mill Street project that was done in 2009, and it expires in 2029. And then we have the Shakespeare sewer that will expire this year. Other than that, I have nothing to add, but I'm available to answer questions.
Okay, any questions for Rhonda? Andrew?
Thanks. Just real quick, I'm gonna click. So with the with the chart for long-term debt, I think I get the tile drain loans and the Shakespeare sewer project. Is that is that paid for strictly by? Is that users pay? I know I didn't participate in that for the sewer project myself, so that's why I'm asking. I don't know. Is that user? Is that outstanding balance being going to be paid by the users, or is that by township, or I guess we really have a fund for the, and then also with the Mill Street project? Is that you or is that government funding? I'm not sure who's actually paying that debt down on those two. Thank you.
Both of those projects are in the user pay areas, the water service area or the sewer service area. That is correct. The Mill Street principal payment, you can see that on your budget. And the Shakespeare Sewer, the Green Municipal Fund, that was a loan that was tied into a grant that we received from the Green Fund at that time. That was back in 2010, and it is done in 2022, and it is paid by the sewer area rate as well. The sewer area, not area rate. Sorry.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to follow up if I may. I apologize. I'm trying to click the button quick here. I got to get a different mouse. So sorry. So this one is paid by. This is a loan that was based as the Shakespeare Sewer one was a loan by the people who I'm guessing to sewers.
It's through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. When we did the project, I don't know if you recall, we got a very large grant for that project. And at that time, there was actually a loan that had to be tied in with the grant. So that was part and parcel of that whole project. I can't remember exactly what the grant was, but it was a substantial amount.
Sure. And so then the Mill Street one, by contrast, it's paid through the water and sewer rates. Is that correct?
On the cap, yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing no other questions, we do have a motion that the Budget Advisory Committee receive the report titled Unfunded Capital and Township Long-Term Debt dated February 24, 2022, prepared by the Treasurer for information. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jeremy. Second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next report is the Active Transportation Fund, and Becky, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So the Active Transportation Fund is through Infrastructure Canada. There are two segments of the grant, one being for capital projects, that's new infrastructure, enhancements to existing infrastructure, et cetera, and the other is for planning projects. Through research that was completed in the Parks Renewal and Development Strategy, there were a number of potential items that would be applicable for funding. Capital projects are up to 60% of the up to 60% of the funding, and the planning design products are 100% funding up to 50,000. So I've just put in together here in the chart, the green chart there just kind of shows you potential projects that we could apply for, potential funding that we can get, and then the 40% that the township would have to come up with should they choose to apply for it. The planning project, this one is, as you can see the attachment there, some information that has come to my office in regards to extending the Mill Street Trail through to Stratford. That one is a big, huge, difficult project, I'm sure, and looking into having a consultant take a look at it to see whether it's actually feasible or not would be the basis of that project should council want to continue with that. I don't think I have anything else unless there's any questions.
Okay, thanks, Becky. Questions to you?
Not necessarily a question. I think a trail south of Bruner, I don't think that'll ever happen. In Alice, they gave all the, well, you had to buy all the CNR track back up. And I know working at the feed mill, we owned the right of way, like whatever the railway right of way was, that was owned by the feed mill. And once you got to the back of the property, then you're in Keith Gosho's field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be, I think you'd be wasting your time and money going after that, because when you get down to Stratford, they reach Stratford, there's now houses where that railway used to go. So I would not be for it.
Yeah, I realize that a lot of that land has been has been purchased by farmers and have actually cleared out the actual rail bed and turned it into farmland. So yeah, it certainly would take a lot of work and a lot of negotiations with the owners too, whether they would want that through their property. So
I know the through the swamp, that trail, I'm not quite sure how it's working now, but I know the people at the south end of the trail, or where it came out, were especially one farmer, he was totally unhappy with it because one day he was fixing his cultivator and next thing people are walking through his yard. So I think it'd be a really, really long shot.
Any other questions, Daryl?
No, just more of a comment. It's interesting, and I see this how, this is a project, designer, and it's paid for up to 50K, and that's really cool, actually. And then you look at the capital projects, 60%. I just want to make a comment, and as much as you see these grants, it's only 60%, and then we're pulling that money from the right here, and then we do asset management. So it's something we always got to keep in mind. When we think things look good, we have to pay for it as to manage. We're seeing that with splash pads and stuff in the skate park. There's huge engagement, but we always got to keep that in mind. That's stuff's there to look after, and by people we have to. So no, thank you.
Hey, Jeremy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, we've got a few. If the Mill Street extension from Bruner to Stratford isn't a go, I mean, there's 3 other projects there that are identified as medium or high priority. So if we're willing to submit for 3 projects, I think the Optimist Trail is, the high priority item. And then we've got the Morningdale identified as medium high priority. So at least those 2, in my opinion. We also are being asked for a significant amount of money for that Shakespeare Optimist Trail as well. So I think, if we can get a grant for that, then even better. So I think that one's definitely the top priority, and Morningdale being second. And then we're making a decision between Greenwood or Lyle Yost. We're looking at those 2. The Greenwood Park Trail connection, I think we will find some community groups that will support that one pretty heavily. So in my opinion, we would go with the Lyle Yost, the Shakespeare Optimist, and the Morningdale Park Trail.
Okay, I think I want to ask Becky the question first. It is a big project to do these applications. So how many can staff do? Like Jeremy just rhymed off 3. Can 3 be done by the end of March, or how many can be done by the end of March? Like,
sorry,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But
no, that's okay. I'm just like, 3 could be done, but it is a lot. It is a lot of work to do the applications up. But if that's the direction council wishes to go, it certainly can be done.
To be clear, I said 3 because that's what's staying in your last paragraph of your report.
Yeah, I did make that comment,
okay.
that I guess I didn't want 4.
Okay, that's why I'm suggesting those 3, because it's set up to 3. I'm not trying to throw more at you than you can handle, but it did indicate that. So
yeah, I guess in my mind, and I didn't actually put it in the report, I was thinking if council so choose was to do 2 capital and 1 planning. So that's kind of but it's up to council, obviously, what route you want to go.
any more questions? Hugh?
Yeah, no. I would go with just one, the Shakespeare one, and only because we're putting a lot of playgrounds in the other parks, and that's a fair amount of money. So I think just to be fair, just have Becky spend her time, just do the one.
Okay. Carol?
Do we look less greedy if we apply for one and really jazz it up nice? Not necessarily.
No.
No.
They'll look at the project itself, whether it's,
Yeah.
you know, the merits of the project.
Sure.
And it actually said that you can, we can rank what we want. So if we, you know, chose Shakespeare as number 1 and number 2, that's not necessarily going to have any bearing on ranking. So I'm not even sure why they said to bother ranking them. So.
Okay. No, it sounds good in Mornington there that as well. I'd be prepared for those two for sure. As Jeremy said. Yeah, other well. So let's do all 3 then.
Okay, Jeremy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have a high priority and a medium high priority. If we go with 2, keeps us out of doing 3 and causing that much more work for staff, but we're still, you know, putting some effort into getting a couple of them. So I will move that we apply for the Optimist Trail in Shakespeare and Morningdale Park Trail.
Okay, so Jeremy's moving that. Do we have a seconder? Daryl? Okay, any more questions or comments? Jerry?
Yeah, question for Becky. I think we've applied for other grants for these projects. We've not applied for, just curious, for all 4 of these at some point were turned down?
We applied for trail systems at Morningdale Park, and that was through accessibility, a totally different program. That was through accessibility. Greenwood Park items, some of that was through the community betterment. So they're all, we've applied for stuff for before, just through totally different funds.
Jerry?
Okay, yeah, just that's fine. Thanks for that information. Yeah, the property, the Shakespeare Optimist Trail, we got a big ask coming here in the next little bit here coming in our agenda. So it's a big project. So yeah, we could get Shakespeare, get that one going, and the Morningdale Trail Parks. I'm willing to support both of those.
Okay, any more questions? If not, we have a motion that the Perth East Budget Advisory Committee receive the Active Transportation Fund report prepared by the Recreation and Community Services Manager dated February 24, 2022 for information, and that the Budget Advisory Committee directs staff to apply for funding from the Active Transportation Fund for the Shakespeare Optimist Trail and the Morningdale Park Trail. Okay, so that was moved by Jeremy, second by Daryl. Any more questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, next we're moving to the Parks 10-year capital forecast, and this is Wes. Which one of you want to take the floor?
Again, this is the information that came from the Parks renewal plan. So we basically have just kind of laid it out as to the idea that that we would implement things as far, or not implement them, but request to council potential project schedules. It kind of has the estimated cost there and the year that we would do it in, and it could be just included in our forecast. If there's any questions?
Jeremy?
Sorry, lots of questions tonight. I'm more curious about how Becky and Wes, how you draw the line in the sand about who deals with what in these circumstances. We have public works and parks and recreation services managers, and how do you decide who does what? And is there a way to, streamline that?
We work really well together. I find the money, he does the work.
If that's all that it is, that's fine. It's just more curious from my end. I've seen this happen a few times with the parks, that we have two different departments involved, and it seems a little bit odd because it doesn't happen all that often, but I guess it works. And if there's no comment, I guess it works, so that's fine.
Wes, do you want to say anything?
It works. Honestly, at some point in time, I think with the organizational review that's forthcoming at some point in time, that some of that stuff will be addressed. This goes back to many years ago when this all happened. Rhonda had a question about the capital forecast for parks, and this is the first kick at this. We've never had a 10-year capital forecast, so there's, obviously we own a bunch more parks, and we will try to get you a more detailed, schedule as to what we can see coming for the next 10 years. But all the parks will be included in the next report that you see, and that's going to take a bit of time. Hopefully, we can have it to you at some point before you go to a budget next year. Thank you.
Okay, Hugh.
On this though, this is not cast in stone, right? This is just an outline, because I don't think I could support something like this if it would be tying future council's hands, especially when we're a council that's almost done our term. So it's just a plan. It's not, this is what's going to happen in these dates and that kind of stuff, right?
Not at all. Doesn't at all tie hands. It's more just a working document, and very similar to like the perks capital plan. We may say we're going to replace the lawnmower in 2025, and we can keep it going until 2026. So it doesn't come to council at that point. So it's just kind of a working document, something for us to kind of prepare for and see how it actually fits in financially for the township as well.
So like Wes said, it's a very preliminary start. We had some discussions one day that we should be looking into this, and they are going to make some revisions. Like there's some things in here that we don't own yet, or we haven't approved through council. So it's only going to be what we actually own, and it's going to be all the parks across Perth East, right? So there's Rostock, Millbank, and wherever else that needs to be added, but it's going to be every park, and it'll give us a better idea of our inventory and how many slides we have and how many playgrounds and all that. That's what it's meant to do. Andrew?
I really got to get in your mouth, so I apologize. So looking at this, and I did a little digging on our policy, and I'm not sure whether councillors know this, but it looks like, and I appreciate staff's comments, it looks like we're kind of on the hook for this, all these projects, if we okay them, because if we move them into a 10-year capital plan, what's the wording again? Township undertake a capital project not included in the 5 to 10 year capital forecast. Expenditures may be considered provided. So it sounds like if they're not in there, then we have to figure out the funding. If they are in there, then depending on the council today, they can be funded up to 100%. So it is kind of, I feel, at least me, I feel it's kind of setting it in stone a bit. I'd really like to go through these one by one and have a little discussion. I've never seen it in this format. I think it's great. We always seem to end these budget sessions early. This is a new thing. I'd like to kind of go through these one by one and just see if anybody has any concerns or questions individually. I know we've had time to comment, maybe not as much as such a big report and detailed report as be nice, but there's someone here that I don't think fit in the municipality, but maybe I'm wrong or could be convinced otherwise. So that's what I'd like to do. I'm not really prepared to do a blanket okay for all this stuff at this point. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Thank you.
Well, the other thing, what we can do, Andrew, is we're just going to receive the report for information. And so then if we receive it, and we'll strike out the last paragraph of the motion, just receive the report for information, and our council goes by what's in the resolution. So if we only receive it for information, that means, yes, things can change, things can come back. And to your point, yeah, we could have another time and we'll sit down and we can discuss each one of these and where we want to go.
No, I think that's a good strategy. It's a lot of money, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to offend anybody's sensibilities anywhere in the township, but it is only recreation. We do have serious, matters we have to if we can do recreation, that's awesome. A lot of these are good projects, but at the end of the day, we still gotta keep everybody's wheels on the road and safe and all those good things too, right? So it's just a big bill. So if we want to receive for information, that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? If not, then the motion will be that the Perth Budget Advisory Committee receive the Parks 10-year capital forecast report prepared by the Recreation and Community Service Manager and Public Works and Parks Manager dated February 24, 2022 for information. Are you moving that, Andrew? Moved by Andrew. Second by Daryl. In favor? All in favor?
Sorry, I just have a comment. I think
Oh, I'm
there was
sorry.
just a typo at the end of the report. I think that's supposed to show the total of 990,000. Maybe there's a zero missing. It just seems a little bit low. On PE 46, there's the thick green total, and I'm assuming that's the total of all of the projects combined. And that number is very low considering the value of some of those projects. That's all.
Okay, we'll have staff check that out. Okay, Daryl, do you have something you want to ask? Nope. Okay. All right, we'll go back. Everybody, all in favor of that motion? Carried. Okay, the next item is the recreation facility funding applications. Becky?
Whoops. There we go. So we received 3 funding requests here from the community. First one being the Shakespeare Optimist Club for their walking path. The second one for the Milverton All Wheels Park, and the third one was taken to council and then referred to budget committee for the Knollcrest gardens there. I don't have anything further to add to the report. And then of course has the application information there as well, which I assume everyone had an opportunity to take a look at. So if there are any questions, just let me know.
Okay, questions? Jeremy?
When is the close date on that grant application, and when do we generally, do you know when we'll hear back at all that we just approved for the Shakespeare project?
The deadline for the application is March 31st, and I do not know when the announcements are, whether or not we get it or not, get the funding.
Is that project a multi-year project, or will it be completed over the course of one season, do we think?
The Shakespeare one, they're hoping to do it this year.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else with questions? Andrew?
Hi, thanks. I'm just trying to recall if we've ever done anything on private land before, like with the Knollcrest thing. I can't recall. And have we done that?
Severinville Park there was given funds a few years ago. Now they haven't actually done that project yet, I don't think, but funds were given or completed it all. But they have they did receive some funds for that.
I think it's a great project. I just worry that this may open the floodgates for many similar requests, and that's maybe usually we look to user groups to appreciate the good work being done. But usually we look to the funding groups to fund these projects, not ask for funding for their projects. So I understand the ask correctly. So yeah, so I'm in favor of the All Wheels Park and that, but I'm not sure I want to open the door to the Noel Crest Courtyard.
Okay, Jerry.
Yeah, so just some confirmation on the Shakespeare Trail. So the total project is estimated 152,000. We're applying for a potential fund from the government for 91,200. So hypothetically, we get that. And then we give them 99,000 as a grant. That's 190,000. How would all that come about in the wash? Can someone answer that one for me?
One option that we could do, or what council could do, is we apply for the grant, whatever we get there, and then just the balance could be taken from corporate reserves. Rhonda, is that?
Yeah, that's an option, because at this point, of course, we don't know whether if we're going to be successful with the application. So you could put a caveat on the motion saying we're going to give you X number of dollars, and it's there would be a limit on it if we get the funding. That would be an option. You could reduce our contribution by the grant amount, or you reduce their fundraising by the grant amount. That would be up to council.
Ultimately, this group could end up not having to fundraise any money. Which I guess would be a good thing, but no, I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, Jeremy.
This project for Shakespeare is also partially on non-township owned property, I believe. So using that as a caveat is kind of moot. I think we need to expect a community group to fundraise at least half of a project. I'm not sure what the parameters. I'm sure we've done it in the past where we've kind of thought that that's what we were looking at, fundraise for half of it, and we'll try to, we can give you some money for the other half, or in this case, we've just applied for a grant. I'm very uneasy giving $99,000 away when the total project is 152, and like Jerry said, we've just applied for a grant for that same amount almost. So lowering that amount to start with, that's where my question about if it was a multi-year project or not came from, was, can we give, say, $30,000 this year? If the project goes into next year, they can apply again and we can give more money again. But at this point, I'm not prepared to give that 99,000 given the current circumstances of the application we're putting in, as well as it being on the private land and the amount of fundraising that's being done. If you compare that to the Noel Crest project, that one's going to be pretty much funded by fundraising in the $120,000, whereas we'd be virtually giving the whole 152 to the Shakespeare project.
Hugh, yeah, I think you had your hand up next.
No, it's okay.
No, okay, Daryl.
How does it work with asset management when we apply for these grants? Obviously, the government seems to be okay. I'm just always curious, we're trying to get to a place where we can hypothetically solely fund this. Well, if it's on private property, does that change things that we're hooked down the road to have to fix this stuff up?
So in the Shakespeare's application, Optimist Club's application, they indicated that they would be looking after the maintenance of the trail, that they will budget a certain amount away each year. However, the replacement of it, if they wanted council to pay for that, they would have to come back and ask for that because it's not, that portion is not our asset.
Okay, great, thank you. It was just, I was curious how that would work. I know we're doing our due diligence there going forward. You know, it's private property, but I kind of get what you say. It seems like it's a gray area and we can go forward.
Andrew?
Yeah, I've been around for a little bit, and maybe others can remember this. I think the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 kind of thing is, if people want to pay for the whole thing, that's awesome. That shows great community spirit. But I think the 1/3, I think that's the way we did the arena originally. There's a number of items that we've done 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I think the money we gave to Shakespeare for the Athletic Association a number of years ago was based on that loose unpolicied formula. So I think if we want to do a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 funding, 1/3 fundraising or contribution, and then 1/3 grant, I'm going to say that's probably in line with what we've done before. And again, with the Millcrest thing, great project, great community thing. It's just, you know, if it's going to be a public space, or it's going to be different. I have pictures of a flowered minivan pulling up to there, and all the young kids going in there and do what young kids do on a Saturday afternoon, right? If it really is a public space, it's just kind of a new thing. Maybe I need to get used to the concept, but I think we should avoid, you know, we could possibly fundraise through for charitable contributions, help with that. I don't know if that's in the report, but how much is in parkland? I couldn't find that in the reserve. Sorry, Rhonda, I apologize.
You're muted, Rhonda.
Sorry, 80,000 left.
There's some money in parkland we could use, and that's obviously parkland, right? So council wants an option.
So I'm just wondering procedurally, instead of having it all one motion, maybe we could separate it out into 3 motions, if that's would be okay with council. The other thing I'm just wondering too, with the Shakespeare one, is can we word the motion somehow that it's subject to, or have it come back after we see if we get the grant, and then we would have to make an amendment to the budget, or how can we do? There's a few balls in the air here, right, that we don't know about now that we're going to apply for a grant for it. So I'm just, you know, trying to figure out procedurally what the best is to handle this. Anyone on staff want to help me? Rhonda?
I was just going to suggest if council is comfortable with committing to X number of dollars tonight, regardless of the grant, and then if we get the grant, then we can make a budget amendment to say how we're going to fund the rest of it, if there's more to fund at that point, and wherever we could draw it from. If that makes sense.
Okay, so they're looking for 99,000 from the township, right? They don't really say how we get that 99,000. So like if we get a grant, say for 90,000, then we have to come up with 9, or we have to come up with the difference between the 152 and what the grant is for. I guess I need clarification on that. We're looking for a set amount, but if we get the grant for them, they don't know we're applying for, correct? Right? So
I don't believe so.
I need to know the difference. If we get 90,000, then we only come up with 9, or we have to come up with 152.
I would say that if we apply for the grant, if we got 50,000, say council said we're going to give them 99,000, we get a grant for 50,000, then the balance of that would come from reserves.
Because we have to match, or we have to come up with a percent,
We
correct?
would, yeah.
Okay. So, Jerry?
So I'll come back to the Shakespeare thing. With Noel Crest and for Treasurer Fisher, they have a loan with us, correct? From a project that we did a number of years ago. Just curious if you can give me that, the quick details on that one, just for my information.
Yes, there is a loan to Knollcrest, and it was their project, and that was quite a few years ago. And that I believe was for more capacity. It was a building project that they did, and they needed extra funding with that. So there is a loan that they repay annually by $10,000. I don't have the outstanding amount right in front of me, but I can get that for council and let you know what the outstanding balance is.
Yeah, I'd appreciate seeing that. Thanks, Rhonda. So I'd like to support all three of these projects. And to Rhonda's point and Andrew's, but this is me going out there for a project in Shakespeare, which I want to support, is let's offer them a $50,000 grant and keep the wheel park at 20 and Knollcrest at 10. I don't know if we're done our discussion, but that's what I'd be willing to put on the floor as a motion. And then can fangle it to whichever we want for if we get it successful at a grant, however that would work.
So you want to keep them all together as one motion, or you want to split them apart?
Well, I guess it depends on the support we're going to get for all three projects. I'd like to keep them all three of them together.
Okay, Daryl?
Thing I got when we're doing this, are all three equally considered in all ages facility? Are our kids allowed to show up?
Want to sit closer to your, excuse me, Daryl, sit closer to you.
Can you hear me there?
There, that's perfect. Don't move.
Okay, yeah. No, are we allowed to, are we allowed to have, say, kids show up at Knollcrest and use this facility? Are they all equal for everybody? Is it a public park that people will show up? This is what I look at this policy, and as we get this money up, is this something that's going to cause issues with certain classes of citizens? I'm just curious.
Anyone answer that?
I mean, I can do my best to answer that, but I think the Knollcrest project would be mostly for the residents, the staff, and the families of the residents there. So certainly, I have a family member there. Once my children are allowed back in there, they'll be using that courtyard for sure. And in the summertime, that would become the primary visiting area probably. On the exterior, being that it's still contained. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a public space, but it's definitely going to be used by all ages for sure.
I guess my question, does everyone realize we have two other nursing homes in our municipality? We have Hillside and we have Bruner. So just so that everybody is aware of that. So what do you want to do here? Andrew?
I'd request that we divide it up, please, just to make it easier to discuss. We can hammer some stuff out easier. That's what I'd like to do. We can, instead of grouping everything together, we can discuss each individual on its merits at that point.
Okay, is that everybody agreeable to that? Okay, I see some heads nodding. So the first one we will deal with then is a Shakespeare Optimus walking path. How much and where do you want the money to come from? Jeremy?
Yeah, I think Andrew alluded to about 50K and Councillor Smith, same thing. So I'm comfortable with that.
So 50,000 and it comes from,
I think we have 80 grand in the parkland is what Treasurer Fisher said. So, I mean, if we get all three of these going ahead, there it goes.
Rhonda?
I'll just make one comment, and it's fine to take it from the Parkland Reserve, that's no problem. But the Community Investment Reserve was set up to fund this policy. So if you wish, you may want to draw it from the Community Investment Reserve.
And how much is in it? Sorry to put you on.
We've got, there's 141,924, and that's with contributing $20,000 in the operating budget. We reduced that because of COVID and inactivity with the groups. That being said, if once we get to the PowerPoint, I've made a note on there that council may wish to top that up back to pre-COVID levels and bring it back up to the 52,000 that we were putting to it before COVID. But we do have enough money there right now if you wanted to fund all three of these projects from the community investment.
Okay, Jerry?
Yeah, that just makes sense. If this policy is tied to that fund, and then that's where it should come from. That's what I think.
Okay, so 50,000 from the community. Sorry.
It's the Community Investment Reserve.
Investment Reserve, okay. So is anyone willing to make that a motion that we take, that the facility funding application from Shakespeare Optimist for the walking path be approved? And if approved, the funding would be $50,000 from the Community Investment Reserve. Andrew, you have a question?
Yeah, we're still applying from funding, right? Or from the funding program.
Yes.
It would be additional to make up to the 99. Is that correct? They have a loan application. So we have, that's not the grant. Sorry, I'm going to flip screens here. Right. This is about the active transportation fund, correct? So if we're successful on that, right, then we're not going to be paying for it for the community investment fund, which I believe was last meeting we had their application, if I'm not mistaken, and we okayed that. I think, or it's a report on here possibly. So the active transportation fund is what we're talking about right now, if I'm not mistaken. So we could still apply for it and make up the rest with that fund. Is the way it's for any project that goes ahead in this report. On like the Wheels Park also, right? So that's kind of, we're talking about paying for it from the community investment fund, but we're actually applying for this active transportation fund, if I'm not mistaken. Recreation fund application. Yes. How we want to do that, I don't know, but that could possibly make up. We want to make sure we put that in the resolution, right? We don't want to not apply for the active transportation fund because we're giving them 50,000 out of the other community investment fund. That's the right word, right? Here's mud.
I thought we had already
motioned
decided to apply for that. So in my view, they're going to get 50 from us, and they could get another 91 from the active transportation fund if it's successful. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Rhonda, you want to say something? Is that?
I believe Jeremy just said it. I'm fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, so everybody, that's clear to everybody how it's going to work. Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder for that to give them 50,000 in community investment reserves.
Sorry, Mayor, I guess if I may just jump in here quick.
Sure.
Since we're splitting up into separate motions, for the first motion, we should still receive the report for information.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Eric. I'll start again. The Perth East Budget Advisory Committee received the recreation funding application report prepared by the Recreation and Community Services Manager dated February 24, 2022 for information, and that the facility funding application from the Shakespeare Optimist for the walking path be approved, and if approved, the funding be $50,000 from the Community Investment Reserve. Okay. Who wants to move and second that? Moved by Andrew. Second by Daryl. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, then the next part is the Mornington Optimus All Wheels Park project. How much do you want to give them and where from? Jerry?
I'll move and give the 20,000 from the same community investment fund.
Okay, and do we have a seconder? Jeremy? Questions and comments? So the motion is the budget. Do we have to receive it for information again, Eric? Or we just, nope, okay. So that the facility funding application from the Mornington Optimus for the All Wheels Park project be approved, and if approved, the funding amount be $20,000 from the Community Investment Reserve. Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, and the third one is for the Milverton Lions Club for the No Courtyard. What do you want to do here? Jeremy? Oh, you're muted, Jeremy.
It's happening to us all. I'll move the $10,000 from the Community Investment Reserve.
Okay, and do we have a seconder? Jerry? Any comments or questions? Andrew? Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Maybe somebody can buy me a new mouse for Christmas. Yeah, I really like this, and it's a great organization. It's a big employer. I just feel that it may open the doors up to something new that we don't really want to get involved in. So I won't be supporting this. Again, great community effort and worthwhile institution. I just feel that for the township, it's not the right move.
anyone else with comments or questions? So the motion is the facility funding application Milverton Lions Club for the Millcrest Courtyard be approved, and if approved, the funding amount be $10,000 from the Community Investment Reserve. Okay, any more questions? All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Okay, anything else in this report? If not, oh, lost my agenda. Okay, then we are going to move to the capital budget and the PowerPoint, and Rhonda, the floor is yours.
Okay, Eric has kindly volunteered to do the PowerPoint turning page for me. Thank you very much. You'll
Yeah,
get
I'm
that
just
on.
going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here.
So just before we start, we'll do all the at the end. Is that correct? Is that what everybody wants to do? We'll go through all the PowerPoint and then we'll do motions. No one say anything? So, okay, we will. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, please let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes. Okay, I guess it's time. Everybody can see the screen. We'll start with the presentation and on to the next slide for our draft budget. This slide here will outline the budget premise. The ending capital balances are transferred to reserves or unfunded capital at the end of the year. Year-end surplus or deficit is moved to the corporate reserve and it's pending council direction. Separate project reports are not prepared for regular furniture and fixtures, and they're normally adjusted by CPI. And carry forward projects from 2021 are included, and in some cases postponed due to COVID-19 supply shortages or limited resources. Next slide. We had one submitted question, and I believe Public Works Manager Wes Kepfer already addressed this, but we'll quickly go over it. The question was, when will council see multi-year projects for all current park inventory? We just pointed out that there were a couple of recreation park reports on the agenda, and that Public Works will be providing a report to council on current park in asset inventory and capital forecasts, and that'll be for the 2023 budget. Next slide. And this slide outlines the changes from the prior meeting. And I just want to say too, if somebody has a question, maybe if just yell it out and I'll stop. That may work. But this slide here, it shows the budget changes since our January 19th Budget Advisory Committee meeting. So this is a big page of information, but the bottom line is the net change is $519 and it's to the good. So that takes our levy to 3.522% after assessment growth. So that was the GRCA levy, came in a little bit lower. The other entries on there is just recognizing grants and carry forwards for fire and parks, and those are transferred over to capital, so the net is zero. And the same with the transfers below. There's just adjusting from one account to the other, so the net is zero. So it's $519 change from the last meeting. Next slide. This slide here is shows the capital plan at a glance. It's expenses. It shows expenses are up $224,524 for capital, and that's due in part having some of the projects carry forward from 2021 into 2022. The revenue is down, and last year the revenue was up because we had that one-time grant from the federal gas tax, which increased it, and then we had a large project that North Perth contributed for Road 140. There's various reasons why revenue and capital can go up and down based on grants and projects. The revenue fund transfers, that's the transfers that we raise our property taxes from, and that's in the operating plan and transferred over to capital, and that's increased by CPI. And our reserves and our unfunded and trust transfers made as required for the current year and as proposed in the project plans that you'll see in the PowerPoint and as presented in the worksheets. Next slide. We'll start off with the general government capital projects. The first project is our asset management project, and the agenda item for this is 7311. The project costs are $20,000, and it's funded from the modernization grant funding that was transferred to corporate reserve. This is the same line item as 2021 and carry forward into 2022 budget, and that is the 2019 one-time modernization / efficiency grant that we received from the province. This project is to review asset inventory, and that's to comply with Regulation 588.17. That's our asset retirement obligations, such as buildings and landfills. That's a new accounting standard that we have to meet in 2022. And we also have to carry on with our service levels under Regulation PSAB 3280. Next slide. Building Betterment Project, agenda item 7312. This project total is $73,000. And that again is funded from the modernization grant that was transferred to the corporate reserve. This is for hands-free faucets, motion door opening and motion lights for the admin building, library, and Shakespeare Hall. This is carried forward from 2021. And last year we did complete the Perks hand-free project. Next, the administration building project. This is the office cubicle renovation. That's agenda item 7313 for $11,000. And this is to be funded from the administration building reserve. This is a renovation in the administrative office to install wall to create 2 additional office spaces to accommodate staffing, accessibility, and allow for guidelines for personal distancing to be met. Next. is the Community Safety and Wellbeing Project on 7314 for $8,000. And this is funded from the modernization grant that's in the corporate reserve. This is the joint project under the Police Services Act with Stratford, Perth County, and St. Mary's. CSWB plan outlines key priorities for safety and well-being and identified by community residents. And the 2022 implementation plan is estimated at $8,000. Next. Next, we have information technology projects. This is the IT security assessment. And the project report here is on item 7315. This is $20,000 project funded from, this is phase 3 of the modernization grant. It gets confusing because some of the grants have different phases and they're titled the same thing. This is the one that council just approved and we got approved. And this is the independent third-party IT security penetration test. And council approved this in 2021. And I'll just mention that Matthew is here. If there's any IT questions, this is a great chance to ask him. If not, we can move on to the next slide. The next is another IT project on 7316 and for $10,500. And this is funded from the corporate reserve from the one-time modernization grant. There are several IT efficiency projects to improve and manage our computer system, including the network switch at the Milverton Fire Station, PERC, a wiring closet, and network monitoring solution, and a terminal server. Next, we have the staff learning management system. This is agenda item 7317. That is $34,000 total. It's funded $8,500 from our IT reserve, and the balance of $25,500 is from phase 3 modernization. This is the digital platform to support new hire programs and existing staff training to update content, track course completion, and document constant compliance. This project was approved by council in 2021, and we had approval for our grant application on the modernization grant. Next, we have HR projects, and they are on agenda item 7318, and that's a total of $60,404. This is funded from the modernization grant. And this is our organization structure review and review of services delivered to find internal efficiencies. That's $50,404, and then updating the HR manual and policies at $10,000. This is a carry forward from 2021. I should mention too that the project manager is listed on the slide as well. So if there's any questions you want to direct to the project manager, feel free to do that as well. And next we have records management. This is Eric in 30 years in the right-hand corner there. And that project's $48,982. And that's funded from the modernization grant. And this one is software to centralize, standardize, automate, and integrate electronic records management, support long-term preservation and efficient access to records. It supports paperless workflows. And this project is carried over from 2021, and they are heavily into the project right now. I believe Matthew and Eric are working on that as we speak.
Hey, Rhonda, this is Andrew.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question about this? Does this include like the YouTube stuff and what will happen with council chambers eventually? Should we ever meet in person again? Is this part of this this funding in this project include any of that, or?
That is a separate project, Councilor McAlpine, but we will address that one further on into the council renovation. Unless there's anything that ties into it that Eric can think of, or Matthew.
Yeah, I can answer a little bit about that. This project is more for our paper records. So any digital records that are already there, it will help with the organization and sorting of those, but it's more to kind of update our older paper records and make them easier for staff to find and locate and things like that.
Like a preservation and archiving type of deal.
Yeah, and digitalization is a big thing because a lot of our older records are not digitalized or digitized currently. So that would be a big part of this project.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next. Okay, this is the administration building project, and this is the council chambers. That's item 73110. And we've got project costs of $109,020 from the modernization grant. And this is to enhance the council meeting agenda management in chambers, technology for live streaming services, and physical setup of the chambers for better communication with our residents, stakeholders. And it's to provide adequate workspace for council and staff during council and committee meetings. We've increased the budget to cover anticipated increased costs in communication and technology. And this is carried forward from 2021. And we are right into that project as well. Next. Now we're into recreation and cultural capital projects. And the first one is the accessory equipment. This is the ice resurfacer at $168,684. Grants of $20,000. There's 10-year sponsorship advertising on the ice resurfacer that will be finalized. There are reserves transfers of $148,684. This is funded by the Arena Reserve and the Corporate Asset Reserve. And the project description, it also includes a floor scrubber at $8,400, water storage tank at $5,100, and then the ice resurfacer is $152 plus municipal HST. And council approved the purchase of the resurfacer in 2021.
If I can just comment that the $20,000 has been confirmed, and I'm working on another 10.
Next.
That's great to hear, Becky. Thanks.
So the pickup purchase, this is item 7322 at $35,000 from the Corporate Asset Reserve. This is the purchase of the pickup truck for recreation services, and it's to be shared with the Public Works to travel to and fro from facilities. And this is carried forward from 2021. Next. The Pavilion Project, 7323 on the agenda for $458.91. Grants, we've got the ICIP Recreation Stream Grant of $319,689. Reserves at $35,368. That's from the Building Betterment Reserve, and fundraising at $95,834. Local donations. We received a total of $125, and part of it went into the 2021 actuals, and the balance is going forward into the 22 share of the project. This, of course, is the construction of the pavilion carried forward from 2021. Next slide. The Bankwood Hall floor, item 7324 at $91,000, to be funded $79,729 from the Bankwood Hall and Corporate Asset Reserve, and the revenue fund transfer is $11,271. And this is the replacement of the banquet floor. The current floor has water damage and seams are separating. Next.
Rhonda?
Yes?
Andrew again here. I wanted to ask Recreation a quick question, Becky. Just are we doing anything to look at the root cause of this and fix why this has happened, or is it possible? Is this work gonna help that, or where are we at with that? Thank you.
Yeah, so the flood took place a number of years ago, and we have done the drainage around the building since then. So that has been rectified. So we haven't had any flooding, and that was actually before I started. So that's, I don't know, that's a few years ago, before 2005 here. But the damage had already been done to the floor at that point. And now, as you could see in the pictures in my my report, like the seams in some places are, an inch and a half separating in that. So there should not be any other flooding at this point.
Thank you.
Next slide is for the pool accessory equipment. This is to replace pool cover and roller stand, item 7325 for $11,000, and to be funded from the pool reserve. This is just the replacement of the pool covers and the roller storage stands. Next slide. Pool project. This is shell painting, leak and pump house floor repair. Item 7326, costing $68,000. Reserves from the pool reserve, we're taking $54,640, and the balance from the revenue fund transfer of $13,360. This is the pool shell painting with epoxy resin, leak repair, and investigating the source of the leak, and pump house filtration room floor repair.
Becky, quick question. Like in somewhere else, I think it's in there, like you're talking about the pool for 250 grand and the year was 2025. Like are some of these projects that you're doing now, are they part of that project to get the pool back up to shape? Like, would you take this money that we're spending here, would you take that off the 250?
No.
Okay.
These are separates. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. But, and the thing was, so the pool things, so a lot of these things won't be able to wait till 2025, will they?
These particular items that are in the 68,000, no. Sorry.
The other one where there was a possibility it would take about 250 to fix a pool.
The question was that we'd be able to wait till 2025?
Well, it just had that the pool 250,000 and then it had 2025 after. So I just didn't understand whether there was some things that I assumed that there were things that needed to be done in the pool like right away. And that was the total price to fix everything that needed to be fixed. But then with the 2025, I was a little confused that I assumed that a lot of the stuff had to be fixed like now, like it can't wait for another couple of years.
So the things that can't wait is the filtration floor. And then these are additional, the 2025 are additional items that will need to be completed, and we're expecting that we'll be able to get to 2025 with those items.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't that everything had to be done.
No,
like
it wasn't
right
the whole
tomorrow.
package that had to be done. It was only certain portions of that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nope, that's fine. I just clarification. That's all. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question for Rhonda. This is Andrew, if I may, please. So we always talk about asset management and understanding it. Now we've gone ahead and divided it up into each individual subcomponent, which is a really good idea. So how much money, we've been collecting money for any asset, including the arena and the pool and all that for a while. Hopefully, since asset management started. So how much is that the transfer from revenue fund? Is that the asset money? And how do we arrive at that number? Or is that for?
What we do is in the operating plan, that's where we collect the money for capital that we raise from current property taxes. And that is indexed every year by the CPI rate that is approved by council. And that is transferred over to the capital plan. There are also reserve transfers that have been standard over the years. And in the asset management plan, those levels were analyzed of where they were and where they need to increase to actually reach our point in time full funding point.
So I guess my question is, sorry to be more clear, is any of this money from the asset management plan for this project cost?
The asset management plan is a plan. Our money is in the reserves. So the reserves here, this is being pulled from reserves, and the pool is a current asset in our current asset inventory. So I guess to answer your question, yes.
That's the 54, and the 13 is coming from transfer to capital, included in operating budget. So
It's still part of our asset management plan. Our asset management plan includes our transfers that are raised from property taxation as well. So both of those transfers are for our current asset and included in our asset management plan.
okay, thank you.
Next slide. The next is the walking trail project on item 7327. This is 333-148. And the grant is from the Canada Revitalization Grant at 249,891. And a transfer from Parkland Reserves at 83,257. This is the extension of Mill Street Trail along Road Allowance Line 61 to Road 119 Brunner and pave existing Mill Street and Perk trails to improve accessibility. Next slide. General Park Project, 7328 on the agenda, costing $7,500 from the Building Betterment Reserve. And this is the estimated cost for legal and surveying for potential parkland in Perth East. Next slide. Morningdale Park Project, the playground structure and the privy repair, 7329 agenda item, estimated at $74,000. And this is funded from Parkland and Corporate Asset Reserve. And this is new playground structure at the Morningdale Park and a rebuild of the outdoor privy. Next. This is the Yost Park project. This is playground structure and security lighting, item 73210, costing $88,000, funded from the Corporate Asset Reserve. This is new playground structure at Yost Park and the installation of the security lighting. The playground is to be relocated closer to parking for accessibility and children monitoring. And next, we'll go on to protection services. And we have to be easy on the fire chief. He has a very sore throat tonight, but he will try to answer questions if he can. And this is, the first one is the large equipment. This is the Stephenville station. This is the rescue vehicle. It's item 7331 at 220,154. We have a private donation of 20,000 and then a transfer from the revenue fund of 200,154. This is to purchase the rescue vehicle for the Stephenville station. And this was recommended by the Perth East Joint Advisory Committee via motion, and it was awarded and approved by council in 2021. And next slide. We have the bunker gear, radios, FDC furniture and fixtures, item 7332 on the agenda. Total project costs of $219,932. And this is funded by grants, 186,332. This is the Fire Association fundraising for the equipment. And then the revenue fund, 33,600. This is a transfer to the fire capital included in the operating budget. And this is listed separately underneath that. We've got the bunker gear at 12,000, 9,500 for the SCBA bottle replacement, radio dispatch equipment at 12,100, and the battery equipment at 186,332. And that's that one. And next we have the furniture fixtures, and this is for the hydrants and small equipment. There's a couple reports on that, 7333 to 7336 for a total of 30,400 funded from the revenue fund transfer. And this is the annual purchasing of a miscellaneous small equipment for the stations, and it's 8,000 each, and the hydrants at 6,400. And next. This is the Shakespeare Station Building Improvements project 7337 at 43.5. And we've got 92,33 coming from the Fire Reserve and 34,267 from the Revenue Fund. The building condition assessment that was completed in 2020 lists some priority projects. Potential projects were carried forward from 2021, and they include automatic start and transfer switch for the standby generator, steel roof, evaluation / repairs, and eaves trough downspouts. And next. We're on to transportation services. And the first one there is pickup purchases. My slide's going by very, very slow, but hopefully everyone can hear me. The project cost for this is $192,000 from the Public Works Reserve. This is a 2021 carry forward for the one-ton dual with dump box and plow truck replacement for the M10. That's $85,000. And then we have 2 1/2-ton pickup purchases and 1 plow for $107,000. Next. This is the triaxle truck purchase, item 7342, and project cost of $370,000. And that's funded from the revenue fund transfer. And this is a scheduled replacement to purchase a triaxle cab and chassis, truck, and associated plow equipment. Next. This is other equipment under 7343. Project cost of $22,000, funded from the Public Works Reserve at $6620 and the Revenue Fund at $15,380. This is a life cycle replacement of the zero-turn lawnmower and it replaces M41. And next. This is a Northeast Hope Shop project, agenda item 7344, estimated to cost $62,500, funded from the Public Works Reserve. And this is to replace all exterior windows and entry doors, place hot mix overlay over the parking lot areas. And next is Road 111. This is a paving project, item 7345, estimated at $354,500, funded $108,548 from the Public Works Reserve and the Revenue Fund transfer of $245,952. This is the hot mix surface overlay on Road 111. This is between line 34 and line 40. And next is the Road 124 paving project, item 7346, estimated at $239,000, and this is funded from the Public Works Reserve. This is a hot mix surface overlay on Road 124. There's a joint tender with Perth County and Road 131. And next. This is the line 64 surface overlay, item 7347, estimated at $200,000, funded from Public Works Reserve. This is surface overlay on line 64 from Road 124 and Road 129. And next. This is line 40 surface overlay project, item 7348, estimated at $811,000. It's funded $388,860 from the Canada Community Building Fund, the former federal gas tax program, and the revenue fund is $422,141. And this is a hot mix surface overlay on line 40 from Perth line 119 to approximately 150 meters east of Perth Road 107. And I guess I should note that with the gas tax program has changed its name, but the rest of it is the same. We've added a couple of more areas where you can apply for you can put applications in, but it's basically the same program. Next, we have Road 140 reconstruction, item 7349 at $500,000. Reserves are funding from the Public Works Reserve is $111,141, and the Revenue Fund transfer of $388,860. This is phase 8 of Boundary Road reconstruction from line 62 southerly. And next.
Rhonda, before we get off the roads, this is Xander again. Sorry to keep going. I wonder if I could ask Wes or someone from Public Works, just when we have a lot of these roads, I know some of the areas are getting, is it is it strictly on traffic numbers or traffic type? I know we do the data collection once a term. At what point or does it go to a county level road, or do we have to kind of re-examine whether it's a municipal road, or do we just keep doing it, and even if the numbers get over a certain class? Just a little background if I could.
So when a road reaches a certain class level, definitely there would be talks with the county and that type of thing because of the different road classes. As you remember, back a few years ago, we switched line 37 with the county, and they took line 36, and that was due mostly because of traffic counts. Line 36 was busier, and it just made more sense for the county to look after that. So we'd have to go into talks with the county if we'd ever decide to do something like that. But in most cases, it is traffic count that triggers something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the pool street light installation, item 73410, estimated at $25,000, funded from the Public Works Reserve. This is the installation of 6 new street lights along Perth Road 121 within the village limits. Next. Line 36, this is full depth repair, agenda item 73411, estimated at $26,500, funded from Public Works Reserve. This is full depth repair from segment between Road 140 and Road 145. Next, we have crack sealing with a project report on agenda item 73412. And it's estimated at $50,000, funded from the Public Works Reserve. And this is crack seal various road sections to preserve condition. Next is the Wilmot East Hope Road, item 73412, estimated at $20,000, 10 from Wilmot and 10 from our Public Works Reserve. This is the preliminary geotechnical investigation to assess the composition and integrity of existing road structure to provide information on requirements to convert road to a paved surface. Project funded half and half, Wilmot and Perth East per boundary agreement. Line 83, surface overlay, item 73414, estimated at $40,000, funded from the Public Works Reserve. This is surface overlay on line 83 in Carthage from Perth Road 131 to approximately 250 meters west, and from Perth Road 131 to approximately 275 meters east. CPR Drive project is surface overlay, item 73415, estimated at $30,000 and funded from Public Works Reserve. This is a surface overlay on CPR Drive from Main Street north to Whaley Avenue. Our bridge and culverts, items 73416 and 73417, total $53,795, $30,000 from the bridge reserve and $23,795 from the revenue fund. This is our annual allocation for culverts and flood pipes, $23,795. And the guardrail installation that approaches to bridge structures. There's an and there, but I'm not sure what the and is. Next, we have our storm sewer projects, item 73418, estimated $17,556 from Public Works Reserve. This is the continuation of project to improve Shakespeare's storm sewer, Thompson, Fraser, and Galt Street, and to facilitate the proposed sidewalk construction. Next, we have sign and sidewalks. It's item 73419 and 20. Estimated cost $36,882. And it's revenue fund transfer is funding this project. This is the annual sidewalk replacement allocation to finance various sidewalk panel replacements throughout the sidewalk network. The annual sign allocation for roadside signs is $11,897. Then we have general environment and health projects. I'm waiting for my screen to sharpen up here, if you're wondering why I'm lulling. The first one is the landfills. It's a Southeast Hope landfill expansion. This is environmental screening component, item 7351 at 50,000, funded from the landfill asset reserve. This is activities to expand landfill in accordance with Environmental Assessment Act. Next one is cemetery monument realignment, item 7361 at 15,000, and it's from the corporate reserve. This is the Knox Wesley United Church Cemetery, and then it's continue to realign tombstones and monuments. Next, we have our environment, water, and wastewater capital projects. And the first one is the Shakespeare water arsenic treatment, item 7371, estimated at 445,756, funded from the ICIP Green Fund. This is pending 367,383, and then reserves at 78,373. This is continuation of the 2020 project. This is the arsenic treatment project to meet the Environment, Conservation and Parks arsenic parameter, and Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Greenstream, where it's pending final approval.
Question, this is the study? This money is for the study?
Wesley?
Sorry, trying to find my button here. This is partially for the study, and if we can get started on doing any of the upgrades and that type of thing. But this is the money that's set aside there was put in 2020, and it's just a continuation of that.
Next. This is the Shakespeare Water System Well Number 1 inspection and rehab. Item 7372 at 35,000. And this is funded from the water reserve. This is inspection of the condition of well number 1, including examination of well casing and well pump to determine if rehabilitation or replacement is necessary.
If I can hop in there, I'll just check this towards west. Now that, do they actually do like an exam of the casing through magnetism or something? Is that what they do?
They actually send a camera right down the well, and it takes a video the whole way down and makes any looks for cracks or any spots where there could be rust or anything like that, just to see what kind of condition the casing is in.
You see, okay. Yeah, they charge enough for that. Oh, I always struggle with these prices around wells. Like I could drill a well and get it pumped into my house for 15 grand right now, not even. And I just sometimes line this up, I feel, but that's my opinion.
Next.
Carol, if I could just add to that last piece, your comment, part of that last figure is actually including a replacement of the pump if needed. So that's where a lot of the cost comes from on that one.
So we'll get a rebate then? This is potential, this is, you know.
So, well, the inspection itself is half the budget, give or take, and the other half is in case we need to replace the pump or do any repairs at that point in time. So we may not use the entire value of that.
Yeah, I just put a new pump in. That's what I could lay my hands on it. Yeah, it was around $1,400. Yeah, okay, interesting. Thank you.
Next, we have the Milverton Water System Well Number 4 inspection and rehab. Item 7373 at 15,000 from Water Reserve. This is the inspection of the condition of well number 4, including examination of well casing and well pump to determine if rehab or replacement is necessary. Next. Next is the Milverton Water System Chemical Pump Installation, item 7374 at 4,000 from the Water Reserve. And this is life cycle replacement of existing chemical pumps, installation of new dialer used to call out operators in the event of plant issues. And next we have the sanitary sewer rehab inspection equipment, item 7381, estimated at $15,000 from the funded from wastewater reserve. And this is pipeline inspection system to inspect various underground issues, includes pipeline inspection system image reel kit. Next, we have the Shakespeare Wastewater Treatment Facility, 7382 at $108,000, funded from Wastewater Reserve. This is instrumentation upgrades, including various probes, PLC, and SCADA upgrades. It includes installation and commissioning. Next is the Mill Street West Pumping Station Peak Flow Monitoring and Analysis on item 7383 at 10,000, funded from the Wastewater Reserve. And this is installation of flow monitoring equipment and consultant data collection to accurately assess peak flows. Next category is general environment and health. This is item, a planning and development project, item 7391 at $25,000. And this is funded from corporate reserve with community beautification project through a one-time modernization service delivery grant, similar to others that we have tonight. We had the community beautification funding of $10,000. The council approved allocation in the 22 budget to procure the review of community beautification project options funded under the one-time modernization grant. And then there's the cairn restoration project as well, and that's $15,000, and that's for two cairns located in Ellis and Shakespeare wards, and they're identified as showing signs of deterioration. So that's it for the actual department project reports. And then just some extra information, just to let you know, the 22 draft budget with changes since our last meeting is at 5.76. And after assessment growth, it's 3.53. And as I mentioned before, council may wish to consider topping up their transfer to the Community Investment Reserve. If they wish to do that, it would be an extra 32,928, which would increase the levy by 0.38%. And the county budget has passed. We're waiting on approved levy ratio and tax rate bylaws. The county estimates included in the comparison tables are based on the share of the county levy. Education rates are approved as well, and we'll know the 2021 year-end surplus as we get into the audit. And next. This is just a table to show you where the changes in the budget come from. On the left side, you have provincial and external changes. So we have provincial and COVID effects on the budget totaling 48,613. And on the right, the municipal changes at 456, 452, 3. And the total levy change again is 5.75% before growth. Next. This table here shows what is my tax bill on $100,000 assessment, just to show you from the different classes. If you had $100,000 assessment for residential, the total there, tax change there is $1,595 for the lower tier. County is $849 for a total of $2,443. Education rates have stayed the same, so you're going to have zeros across the board for all of that. And then farmland total is $611, $3047, and $4812. So that's a comparison on $100,000 from last year to this year per class. In the next slide. This is the dollars that are raised on $100,000 of property assessment per class and the total. So to start at the top, residential total is $891, and industrial at the bottom is $2,334. So that shows you the difference between the classes. And next. This is where we get the information on typical tax bills. So we get this information from Opta, and they give us a typical assessment on a single family home. And the 2022 comparison, if total tax bill is $2,666 versus last year at $2,593. And there you have a tax bill change of $73.06 or 2.82%. And the next slide shows it on a typical standard industrial property assessed at $360. That's your median or typical assessment. Total bill in 22 is $8,404 versus 21 at $8,231 for a difference of 173 or 2.10%. And next, you have your typical farmhouse. 22 compared to 2021, we have 1,566 versus 1,523 for a change of $42.91 or 2.82%. Next, you have typical farmland, an assessment of $1,441,200. Tax bill in 22 of $3,212 versus $3,124 in 2021. And that's a difference of $88.04 or 2.82%. Small retail, $3,314 versus $3,258 for a change of $56.06 or 1.72%. And next. Oh, the next is the best slide. And that's it.
Great, Rhonda. Great presentation. Okay, so we do have questions. Hugh?
Rhonda, at the county, we keep getting asked about the tax percentages. People are complaining that the farmland is paying more than a bigger percentage than they usually would of taxes, and that's because the assessment hasn't been brought up to date. And I just wondered if you changed that formula, would obviously houses would pay more, but would not farmhouses also pay more if you changed that formula? Like if you lowered the from, what is it, 24%, say you loaned it and put it down to 23% for farmland, that 1% has to be made up by everybody else, right? So
that's correct.
If you were making, so then even if we did something with the farmland, farmhouses would, they'd have to pick up part of that share too, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda.
Welcome.
Okay, Daryl?
Just a few questions here. The first one here, probably Teresa will have to chime in there. The distancing requirements that they're acquiring now, is there policy came out on that from the province within offices? Is that something new for the office cubicles?
Are you referring to the report on the renovations in the administration building, Councilor Ellis?
Yes.
Maybe I'll let CEO Teresa answer that one.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Hurlick, regarding the office area, we are finding that in order to accommodate our staff, we need to have those areas. So we've come up with basically a solution that we can make some of the office space where we're currently using it for storage files just to make better use of our area and to accommodate our staffing. So we're going to be moving some of the filing area and implementing walls in there to allow for 2 office spaces. And part of it where it indicates about accessibility and also the spacing as well. We've been very cognizant of that in terms of following the guidelines.
Yeah, okay, so essentially we are, it's a good thing to get a little more room. No, you're following.
Excuse me, Daryl, you're cutting up. Can you sit closer to your computer, please?
Right here.
That's better.
Okay, it's within an inch or two. It's so weird.
I know.
No, I apologize. No, I just curious, you know, we want to make sure we have room for growth, essentially. As the municipality, we're going to need another person or 2 on top, and that we have that room, that we're not, you know, making too much space for everybody. Interesting times. We just want to make sure that we don't give everybody too much space that most of our office isn't big enough as we grow as a municipality. I was just wondering if there is legislation, but it's just the COVID legislation. I understand. So,
well,
go ahead. No, okay, no, go ahead, Teresa, if you have any more to say.
Right. So our office, actually going back when it was, well, the office was constructed almost 20 years ago. And the intent of that office, the way it's laid out and having the offices in the outside area, and there's a lot of open space. I think that when it was, when the office was designed, I think it was designed very well to allow for growth within there. But also we had utilized basically furniture that was moved from, well, going back when we first amalgamated, we were located over at the Perk, as well as having a couple of portables. So the furniture that was there, that was purchased for those areas, basically we put those into our office space. And so some of them were not necessarily, I think it's what we're trying to do is make more practical use of the office space that we have in order to accommodate the staff that we have as well.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you. And the second part there, maybe Becky will chime in here. The paving of the existing trails around the Perk. That's something we're doing as an accessibility thing solely, or was there engagement from the public on a review that they would like that?
You're referring to the grant funds that we got to pave that area?
Yeah, just a refresh.
Yeah, it was just for accessibility, to ensure accessibility.
Okay.
It's heavily used, if that's what you're.
It is heavily used, is
Yep.
it? That's good. I know people, mothers and stuff, like to pave. It's good. No, interesting for sure. Okay. No, we did pretty good here. Just a general comment. I'll finish up. You know, with the growth, yeah, and then we're at 3.5%. It still adds up, and we have to remember these halls we're not using them the way we did, and I don't know when that's going to come back. There's other people in the business now of barn rentals and, you know, these fancy places, and that seems to be where people are going. You have to keep in mind this stuff catches up with us down the road, and oh boy, it sucks. These residential areas are going to be getting an increase here, and it's going to be implemented over a couple of years. But when MPAC does that review, boy oh boy, yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad we're at 3.5%. I know there's a couple of big kickers there. Good thing for the growth, but we ain't always going to be able to rely on growth. And if growth isn't done right, it don't help either. So good job on staff. I would like to see 1 or 2%. I'm not sure where we can trim it, however. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Andrew?
No, just kind of where we're at in the program. I saw in the agenda, I saw the end. Are we looking at capital forecast reports too next, or?
No, what we're going to do now is going to go through the motions for all that Rhonda just presented. So
We're going to look at these capital forecast reports in this meeting?
yes, we will. Yes. First, we're going to do these resolutions to get us right up to there, and then we're going to go into the capital forecast reports. Okay? Or else we're going to be way behind in our resolutions. So is there any more questions on what Rhonda just presented? If not, like I said, I have a series of resolutions here, and we're going to see if we can get through them. So the first one is on capital budget PowerPoint, capital budget summary, and a capital budget detail. So that items number 7.2.1 to 7.2.2 is set out in capital budget PowerPoint for the February 24, 2022 Budget Advisory Committee be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder. So moved by Jeremy, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Excuse me. Okay, and then the next group is the 7.3, and it's asset management project, building betterment project, administrative building office cubicle renovation, community safety and well-being plan project, information technology special project 1, information technology general projects, information technology special project 2, CAO Human Resources Project, Clerk Records Management Project, and Community Beautification Funding and Care and Restoration. So that items 7.3.1 to 7.3.110 is set out in general government under department capital project reports for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jerry. Second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, then we're doing the 7.3.2s. So we have the arena accessory equipment, the arena vehicle purchase, the arena general projects, Perth Pavilion and Trail, the hall building component project, banquet hall floor repair. We have the pool accessory equipment, pool cover replacement and roller stand, the pool main facility components, which is shell painting, leak repair, and pump house floor repair. We have the walking trail report, the general park report, the Morningdale Park project, and the Yost Park project. So all items under 7.3.2.1 to 7.3.2.10 is set out in recreation and cultural services and under department capital project report for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jeremy, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next one is the 3.3.3, and we have the Stephenville Fire Station large equipment, Fire Department Central furniture, fixtures, and small equipment, Milverton Station furniture, fixtures, and small equipment, Shakespeare Station furniture, fixtures, and small equipment, Stephenville Station furniture, fixtures, and small equipment, Fire Department Central fire hydrants, and the Shakespeare Station building improvements. So that items number 7.3.3.1 to 7.3.3.7 is set out in protection services under department capital project reports for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Andrew, second by Jeremy. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're moving to 7.3.4, and that is the pickup purchase, pickup truck replacement, tri-axle truck purchase, other equipment purchases, Northeast Hope Shop, Road 111 paving, Road 124 paving, Line 64, Line 40, line 140 reconstruction, the pool streetlight installation, line 36 repair, the crack ceiling, the Wilmot East Hope Road, line 83, CPR Drive, culverts and flood pipes, general bridges, guardrail, storm sewer, Shakespeare, roadside signs, and sidewalks. So that items 7.3.4.1 to 7.3.4.20 as set out in transportation services under department capital project reports for February 24, 2022, Perth East Budget Advisory Committee be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jerry, second by Carol. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and 7.3.5 is the landfill property. That item 7.3.5 is set out environmental waste services under department capital project reports for February 24, 2022, Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Moved by Hugh, second by Jeremy. All in favor? 7.3.6 is Knox Wesley Cemetery. So that item 7.3.6.1 is set out in health and culture services under department capital project reports for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Moved by Daryl, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have under 7.3.7, we have the Shakespeare Water System Arsenic Project. We have the Shakespeare Well Upgrade. We have the Water Downhole Well Inspection, Milverton Well number 4, and we have the Water System Chemical Pumps. That item 7.3.7.1 to 7.3.7.4 is set out under Environment Water Services Report for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. We're almost done. Okay, 7.3.8 sanitary sewers inspection equipment, Shakespeare's sewer building and the Mill Street West pump station. That item 7.3.8.1 to 7.3.8.3 as set out environment wastewater services under department capital project reports for February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Moved by Jeremy, second by Carol. All in favor? Carried. And 7.3.9, Community Beautification Fund and Cairn Restorations. That item 7.3.9.1 is set out in Planning and Development for February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Moved by Carol, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks everyone. Now we're going to move to the capital forecast reports. So you want to do this by each department? How do you want to do this? First we have the building capital forecast, which is on page 228. Is there any questions on it? Andrew?
Yeah, so just a general question on how this document works. I'm going to try and bring it up on my thing. So the values, give me 2 seconds here. Building. So if we take say the first line there. Take the first line and just look at what's under each heading. This may be the easiest way to do it. Then I don't have to ask for everyone. So we have the asset ID, the category building, Public Works Department, Shakespeare Pavilion, in-service date, build date, obviously, and then historical cost. And that is the original build cost, I'm guessing.
That's from the data we have, as best we have on the original cost of the asset, yes.
Okay, and then the replacement cost based on that 50-year estimated useful life is 570.
Yes, correct.
Keep saying yes, we'll move through.
I was trying to find the line. Sorry, Andrew.
No, that's fine. No, I just want to make sure I know what I'm looking at. It's great to see all this like this. And then we got the 12,605.66. What's that number?
That's the annual requirement. That's what we should put away to fully fund that asset at the end of its useful life.
And we're not quite there. So what percentage are they all the same for what we're lacking a bit? Or I know we've made the effort to catch up eventually. So what's the actual requirement? Would I have to go back to the line by line budget, or how do I know what we're actually putting away for this?
This information here is not what we're putting away. This is the information of what we should be putting away for the annual requirement and what the historical information is. Your asset management plan that you get every 5 years will tell you the whole detail of where we're sitting.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I think I'm done.
No, I'm just so what are we putting away for any one of these assets? How do I find that? Or is it a conglomeration of a whole bunch of line items in our budget? I guess is my question.
Well, I think you're probably your best bet to see annually, Councillor McAlpine, where the money goes for our assets is our transfer to reserves. And then you see that on your reserve report. So you see your $17 million reserves there, and what's being put in. We pull out every year as well, of course, to do projects. But what we're putting in there, that is basically where the money is to pay for these assets for the future.
Okay, so it goes into one fund. I won't find a line item for each asset. Obviously, that would probably be a lot of work.
What you will find is about 50 reserves with different purposes that are approved by council. I think I've mentioned in the past, ideally you'd have one reserve and then you could divvy it out based on priorities. That being said, that's not always ideal because you have different services and assets that are paid for by areas such as water and sewer. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work. And then you have the building department is funded by fees. So there's little quirks here and there that makes that beautiful scenario not work.
Okay, just to try and finish off. So to find out how much I'm putting, the taxpayer is putting in for the Shakespeare Pavilion currently, and what we should be putting in, which is a good thing to know. Is that easily found, or is that a big search?
No, we don't put it in per asset, Councillor McAlpine. We transfer based on category. So we have a building category, and you'll see transfers to the building betterment reserve, which is for our buildings. That being said, and some events we use money for buildings out of other reserves as well. We have the corporate reserve that is a general reserve that can be used. So we have this pot of money. We have some areas that are designated to specific assets or projects. But then we also have some general areas that are corporate that can go to generic projects as council approves them. At the end of the day, you have X number of dollars that are in your reserves, and we should have Y number of dollars to fully fund. But that being said, I would suspect that all your assets aren't going to fail on the same day. So your cash flow is probably good.
Perfect. Almost there after 12 years. So I might have to ask a couple more times and I'll fully understand it. Thanks very much.
Okay, Daryl?
And this is a living document, so it's things that'll have to get caught and updated. Like, for example, the pavilion here in Shakespeare, I see it says 81 when it was built. That date would be a little off. That's newer. And the selfie stove landfill, that's replaced. That's all new. So I just yeah, how are we monitoring this documentation? It's updated in days. Yeah.
Going forward, when we're adding our new assets, we're going to have perfect information because we have PSAB, we've asset management planning. For our old assets, for the catch up, it was a huge exercise and we used the best data that we had at the time. If there is something that is material and is jumping out that is incorrect, we can make a correction. But what we have been working on is the data that we could find at the time to enter the asset as best as we could. As we dispose of old assets and get new, it's going to be better information.
Yeah, and it's a tough call, like you say. Like I look at Shakespeare Hall, so it'll be in 50 years, you know, in 10 years. Well, I think it's good for another 30 or 40, I'm sure. So it's a tough one with this stuff for sure. It really is. That was a well-built building, very, very thoughtfully thought out and very quality built. So it's interesting for sure. Some of these dates, yeah, we can look at it and put real dates behind them. No, thanks.
Okay, so we do have several pages of these assets, so I'm going to read off the category and stop for a second, and if there's questions, we'll answer the questions, and otherwise we'll keep moving to the next one. So the first one we have is a building capital forecast. Is there any questions on it? Then we move to the recreation and culture services capital forecast. Then we'll move to the library capital forecast. Then we'll move to the fire vehicle forecast. Then we'll move to the building and planning department vehicle forecast. Then we'll go to the 5-year capital forecast for roads. The public works, bridges and culverts forecast. The public works equipment forecast. The public works vehicle forecast. The sewer vehicle and equipment forecast. And the water vehicle forecast. We have no questions on any of those, and we do have a motion. And the motion reads that the building capital forecast, recreation, culture, services capital forecast, the library capital forecast, fire vehicle forecast, building and planning department vehicle forecast, 5-year capital forecast roads, public works, bridges and culverts forecast, public works equipment forecast, public works vehicle forecast, sewer vehicle and equipment forecast, and the water vehicle forecast. And items 7.4.1 to 7.4.11 as set out under capital forecast reports for the February 24, 2022 Perth East Fire Budget Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Jeremy, second by Carol. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Grand River Conservation Authority draft budget. Are there any questions on any of that? I'm sure Jerry can help us out. He sits in that committee. There's questions. If we have no questions, then we do have a motion that the 2022 draft budget prepared by the Grand River Conservation Authority dated January 28, 2022 be received by the Perth East Budget Advisory Committee for information. We have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Carol, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're at the part where about how our levy increase is, how much it's going to be. Rhonda mentioned. Oh, sorry. I'm jumping ahead. We have no closed session. We have no notice of motions. Now new business. Sorry, I jumped. So new business, we need to set our levy increase before growth assessment, and then what it will be after growth assessment. Rhonda mentioned about the community investment reserve. I believe last year we lowered the amount, right, Rhonda, to 50 or 20,000 because we felt with COVID that nobody would be doing projects and that, but now with COVID, hopefully coming under control. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but hopefully things are going to open up. And so we're just wondering, do you want to put the full amount back into the growth, which would increase the budget? Rhonda, can you?
I'll put it in here.
So before we add the community betterment, it's 3 point. Sorry.
5.3.
3.522.
Okay. And then if we add the other, it's going to be point.
It's going to be 3.897.
3.897. So what do you want to do about the community investment reserve? Daryl?
Leave it where it is. I believe we could be jumping the gun. I honestly don't trust nobody at the federal government or the province at this point, and where we may or may not be going. And I just don't want to see us stacking money in there at a too fast of a rate. I think we'll leave it where it is. 50 grand a year into that is enough. I understand we want that money to go back to the public, and we want it on public property ideally. But it is good. I mean, we still have our other systems to our parkland fund and such. I think we need to leave it where it is for another year.
I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. The current amount we're putting in is 20,000, not 50,000.
No, but I thought it was set for 50 and we dialed it back to 20. And we're going
to. We put it back to 20 and now we're asking if you want to put it back to 50.
I'm prepared to leave that to 20.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment on that? Jerry?
Yeah, I'm opposite. I think we should be putting that back in up to the 32 to make it the 52.92.
Okay, anyone else? Jeremy?
Yeah, I'd like to fund that back up to the 52 as well. I think it makes sense given the amount that we've taken out, or that we probably are taking out this year with our commitments we made tonight as well. I'm not sure what that draws it down to, but it's probably $30,000-$40,000, Rhonda. Anyways, I feel like we've drawn quite a bit out tonight, so we should be looking at funding it some more.
Okay, anyone else? Andrew?
No, I agree with the comments either way. I'm leaning towards keeping it the same. We spent, I didn't add it up. We spent a lot of money tonight. Hopefully we're not getting so many asks coming up. You know, it'd be nice. It's not a lot of money, but I think we need to do what we can to keep the taxes down for many reasons. So I think one more year and the new council can look at what they want to do with that program would be my suggestion.
Okay, anyone else? Who wants to move what? Barry? You had your hand up first. It was a draw.
Well, I move that we increase it to the 22 transfer of the 32,928.
Okay, so help me here, Rhonda. So the levy increase would be?
Before growth, if you add the 32,928 is 6.127, and then after is 3.897.
Okay, and then the amount is 52,000.
928.
52,928. Okay. So I'll read this where it goes. The draft budget review for February 24, 2022 Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting result in a levy increase of 6.127 before assessment growth and 3.897 after assessment growth. and that a total of $52,928 be transferred to the Community Investment Reserve. So Jerry's moving that. Do we have a seconder? Jeremy? Any more questions or comments? Jerry?
Yeah, again, just we did take out pretty near 80,000 here tonight. I'm giving Shakespeare Trail 50, the Wheels Park 20. You know, I appreciate Councilor McAlpine's. We maybe wait one more year, but it's just another year that we'd be behind this amount. So just a comment there on the motion.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? All opposed? It's defeated. Okay, who wants to make a new motion? Carol?
The motion, we leave it where it was at the 3.6% increase and not increase the community investment reserve.
Okay. Okay, so Rhonda, the levy increase would be?
Before assessment growth, it's 5.752. And after is 3.522.
Okay, and then $0 be transferred to community, right?
No, it would include the 20,000 that's already in there. You can just take the second part of the motion out if you're going with that one, Mayor Eggett.
Okay, all right. So the motion would be that the draft budget reviewed at February 24, 2022, Perth East Budget Advisory Committee meeting result in a levy increase of 5.752% before assessment growth and 3.522 after assessment growth. And that, are you moving that, Daryl? So moved by Daryl, second by Andrew. Comments or questions? Jerry?
So next year or in 2 years from now, I'm just going to use Shakespeare, the ball diamond, for instance. We need improvements in the ball diamond and Shakespeare. We need light standards in Shakespeare. That group could come to us and say, we need $50,000. Well, if we would have put in that extra 32 2 years ago, 3 years ago, last year, yes, it was a no-brainer, we could do it. So I think we're leaving ourselves short here because we do have lots of things happening. Things are going to get busier with things going. So just my comments on this.
Okay. Andrew, Daryl, you get last word because you're the mover. Andrew?
No, I agree with Councillor. I agree with Councillor Smith. There'll be never ending line of hands out, and that's our job, is to make sure we keep the tax rate low for everybody. And it's all goodwill. You know, I'm just looking at recreation cultural services tonight. We've got some really large numbers. We've got some really large numbers coming, and I know it's only $30,000, but we have to make an attempt to spend the taxpayer money wisely. So there's some things we're out of our control this year. So I feel this is just a wise move at this time, and it may change. The fund may be, the next council can make a different fund or improve the policy. We do have other funding sources for all this stuff. As you can see, we're in an election year, and we're probably could possibly be moving into a second election year. So lots of free money kicking around. So we got to remember that we haven't had this fund for a number of years. It's a relative new fund, and things were getting done before that. So that's why I'm just cautiously holding off for a year. Thank you.
Carol?
No, just to finish off, and we can break things open up, and as that happens, we're going to have people getting together. We're going to have optimists getting together and raising money in the way we need to be getting back in the halls. For example, in Shakespeare, it was all local. The amount of money that they did on their own, and that was huge. Down here, it's just the way we can roll, and it's everywhere. Everybody's doing it. As things open up again, we need to see the community coming with real cash themselves instead of coming to us, because we will condition people to come to us, and it's an idea, but it just, I want to see more involvement from the community, real assets coming forward.
I have one question before we call the vote. Do we have a policy on this? Is there a policy now that how this is to be handled and how much money is to be put away?
We have a funding policy, but the reserve, there's no set amount of what we have to put into the reserve. It's under, same as any other reserve, it's up to council's annual discretion.
Okay, so I might have a procedural question, but that might be after we take the vote. We'll see where this goes. Okay, so the motion is, I think I read it, did I not? What the assessment, the growth before assessment is 5.7.2 and the after assessment growth is 3.522. Right, and we're not transferring anymore into the community investment reserve. We're not putting that part into the motion, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I had moved that.
All in favor of that motion? Okay, carried.
Thanks, Jerry.
I was kind of wondering where that was going to go. Okay, so we are at the end. So the meeting of the Perth East Budget Advisory adjourned at 9:28. Unless there's any announcements. Sorry, I didn't do that. Any announcements first? If not, a motion to adjourn at 9:28. Moved by Jerry, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Jerry, you want to say something?
So does this mean we do not need another budget meeting?
Correct. This is it.
So go ahead. No, I don't know. You're probably going to thank staff, Mayor Agats, but I want to again, personally thank Treasurer and CAO and all staff, everyone that's worked on this. And Rhonda, you've done an excellent job chairing our committee. I've had the pleasure of chairing a budget committee 1 year, and it's tough, but again, thanks everyone for putting this together, because it's not an easy task. And council as well. Thanks to all our council members for input too. Just my thoughts. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Jerry. I think everybody appreciates your comments, and I will echo them too. Your staff has went to a lot of work. I know Rhonda has a lot of work into this, and Peter as well, and everyone. We can't thank you enough on behalf of council, and thank you, council, too, for all that you have done for the budget as well. So yeah, another great year. We look forward to 2022 as it moves along, and we thank you everyone for your contributions. So